Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Alibi Pod. Today is episode 28, and we gotta get going.
Today's the day. What's up?
Just chilling. Had some lunch. I had lunch before.
Tell us what you had for lunch.
Steak, leftover steak. Last night I made dinner. Dad texted me. This is a Sunday afternoon after church. I'm with my girlfriend. We're at a friend's house. We're playing some games, right? Dad texts me. He says, "Are you going to be home for dinner?" I'm like, probably. I don't know. Maybe. I didn't know for sure plan yet. I expect to. What's for dinner? And he says, "I was thinking you make some steak. I'll buy you. Just make it." I'm like,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You already know my answer is yes. So, girlfriend and I, we went to the store. We grabbed some steak. Cooked it up on a grill. It was quite excellent. We had some Brussels sprouts with it and some of those Cheddar Bay biscuits, like Red Lobster.
Yes, sir.
It was all quite good, but we had some leftover steak, so I had some of that for lunch and actually for breakfast too. So this morning for breakfast, I opened the fridge and I looked and I saw leftover steak from last night and I saw leftover Indian food from the night before. So I was like,
a dilemma.
This is happening. I made the forbidden dish, dude. I had steak tikka masala. I mixed Indian food with steak, which...
It's a pretty big no-no in India.
If you know why that's funny, then I guess you know. But if you don't know, you probably don't like tikka masala anyway. So, I don't know.
I recently undertook the endeavor to make steaks for the whole family, which is approximately like 8 steaks.
Yeah.
And it was an overwhelming experience cooking that many steaks, and like half of them were like overdone because it was like jumping between one and the other. Not a skill that I have. I can make a great steak, but all the steaks at the same time, the juggling act was not a skill that I have.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 steaks maybe last night. Made 9.
So the juggling act is a skill that you have.
Yeah. They were all perfect.
Sick.
Varying levels of medium to medium rare. Some of them were a little thicker. And I knew what I was looking for on those ones. I took the thickest one for myself. It was the most rarest one, you know. But
Yeah,
I used the grill. I didn't use the pans. I used the grill. Doing them all on the pan is a little bit more difficult. But also I've been cooking steak a little bit more than you.
Quite possibly, since you eat it like all the time.
I eat a lot, and I started making myself steaks before you started making a bunch of steaks.
Very possible.
What do you mean possible, dude?
Plausible.
We both lived at home at the time.
And you made more steaks.
And I made
it's true.
steak, and you did not. I know this was true. This is not plausible. This is a fact.
This is verifiable.
But also, last night, having the grill was kind of easier to just...
Yeah, because they're all in a row. Yeah, I could understand that.
cook several at a time. And some of them were bigger and some were smaller, but I actually caught the grill on fire.
Sick. Got that
For the
nice
first 3,
good,
I caught the grill on fire, and I was like, oh, took them off, and then had to kind of put it out and then turn it back on for the rest of them. But it was a good experience. They were all good steaks. And the Brussels sprouts were good, too. I'd never made Brussels sprouts before in my life. I called Mom. I was like, what do you put on your Brussels sprouts? And she was like, this and that. And I was like, all right. So I just threw some on there.
Salt, pepper, garlic, probably.
Yeah, salt, pepper, garlic. I think she did like onion powder and a little bit of... You put butter in the pan.
You got to do the butter in the pan.
And then some brown sugar in the butter and brown sugar all together.
Yeah, all
with
right.
Those things make...
I like that too.
The Brussels sprouts really good. They turned out great. They were excellent. I really liked it. But... I'm really curious about this bakery question that you've had on the agenda for like 3 weeks.
It's just a question that we can, ask if we get time for it. But apparently today we're making time for it. I'm just so curious
we're making time for it.
There's a moment when you run to, in our case, Price Chopper.
Yeah.
But, at the place that we used to live, it would be like there was a hen house, right?
Yeah,
There's
hen house.
Inevitably a grocery store way closer to you than like your main grocery store. Your
right,
Walmart
if you're Aldi or a Walmart person or whatever.
There is inevitably some probably overpriced grocery store that's close enough that you're running there when you need something. Right? And there's a bakery section.
Right.
And you have to walk through the bakery section because it's right by the door to get to whatever you need. In my
course.
case, the other day, it was I needed milk. We were out of milk and heavy whipping cream for something that we were making. So I had to run to the store and get
You
some
don't
milk
need
and
to
heavy
go through
whipping
the
cream.
bakery to get to the milk in our price chopper.
How am I...
You're intentionally going around.
Regardless.
Okay.
Regardless of whether it's intentional or not, you walk through the bakery to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
And inevitably, you assess what's there and you pick something.
Inevitably.
You just got to have a little something, right?
So, yesterday I was actually in Price Chopper before we went to the friend's house for the games because we were going to take something. We took a couple of things, but millennial pause for a sip of smoothie. We went by the bakery. We were having chili, and I saw cinnamon rolls. And goodness, I was thinking real hard, man, because I've had chili and cinnamon rolls. We did not grow up in a chili and cinnamon rolls household, but I've had it, and it was so good.
It's a very special kind of a thing.
It was very good. Anyway, I didn't get the cinnamon rolls because I knew there was already going to be dessert, but it was a real moment for me there.
A real struggle.
When we
what
went
did
past,
you get?
Shredded cheese.
Oh,
and
that's... I thought you were
soda.
gonna... Okay, that's not at all what I was talking about. All right, understood. So my question is, when you're running there for the milk or the, whatever you have to grab, and you walk through the bakery section, what do you opt for? What's your choice?
So at our Price Chopper, if it's just me, our Price Chopper has these like parfait things, these like mousse cake cream kind of parfait things. These things are the devil, dude. They're like $7, but they're so good.
Bro, like all
We
of
lost
our
the light.
extra lights just went
Yeah,
out.
we
That's
lost
so
the light.
funny. I'm going to take this light.
And put it in front of us.
Yeah.
Or not. And then tell this story about. Come up with a funny
We'll
story.
just change this light to be cool light, and we'll put him right over here.
Yeah, so I'm generally one of those parfaits kind of guy, but I really like cheesecake, dude.
Cheesecake?
I often go for the cheesecake.
Slept on answer.
I often go for the cheesecake. Otherwise, it's probably a cinnamon roll or the fancy brownies.
I'm a lover of cookies.
Oh boy, I'm not a big.
I'm a
cookie guy.
lover of brownies.
Yeah.
But lately, they have these like Boston cream cupcakes.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like kind of a, I guess.
You don't happen to have some at home, do you?
No, not at the moment.
You're like, we got a sample.
I wish. It's like, white cake, chocolate frosting, cherry on top, and it's filled with that Boston cream.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm gonna have to go to Price Chopper after this.
yeah,
Not that I can
hopefully
afford
they have
that, but-
some, but they come in like a 6-pack, and I just eat like one after dinner, every couple days, and they last me, a whole week at least, because I share them with the wife, of course. She has one too. Whenever I can talk her into it. She prefers ice cream, right? She's walking all the way to the ice cream
I'm not an
section.
ice cream guy. I'm just not
I
an ice
like
cream guy.
ice cream fine. I don't think ice cream, and I know this is your hot take.
Yeah.
Your hot take is
I find ice cream to be overrated.
ice cream is
It's
overrated.
an overrated dessert.
Right, which
Your wife would fight me. My girlfriend would fight me. They're both ice cream girls.
there's a lot of people, and also like a significant percentage of women that would fight you over this.
Women like ice cream. I don't know why.
Women love ice cream.
You saw the dessert draft, right? With the,
And
I
well,
like the
I
more
am in-
sophisticated dessert.
I think that you're very misunderstood on this topic.
Oh, okay.
Because when you say ice cream is overrated, they're like, you hate ice cream? And I have to then play the devil's advocate here
No, I
and
don't
be
hate ice
like,
cream.
he doesn't hate ice cream. He just thinks ice cream is not as good as
Yeah.
it's treated,
Yeah,
right?
I had ice cream last
There
night.
is a level of hype that's appropriate for
That's
ice
true.
cream.
That's
It's
true.
just not the one you all have.
Yes, 100%. People just are such fiends for ice cream. They just, ice cream. Don't glaze the ice cream. It's not that good. It's all right. It's good. It's an excellent dessert. It's not that good.
It's not that good.
Like, I understand the hype if we're
like ice
talking
cream.
about, like, a tiramisu. Like, I am down bad for some tiramisu. You know what I'm saying?
Speaking of fun dessert experiences, It was recently Valentine's Day.
It was.
My wife and I, we went to a fondue restaurant. And fondue is fondue. It's a thing, whatever, right? What was really special about this was the chocolate fondue, right?
Yeah,
Everybody
of course.
knows that the chocolate fondue is the headlining item at any fondue restaurant.
Of course,
and essentially
because-
it's just, well, because what?
Boiling is like the worst way to cook
The
literally
meats-
any meat.
Right. The way you cook the meats is you just boil them in broth. It's not that amazing, right? It's not the best way to cook meat. The meat really tastes good because of the sauce that you dip it in, which is not like a good starting point for meat. Whereas if you go somewhere where like a Korean barbecue, you can sear it, you get that like
That's what we're looking for.
that's a better way to cook meat. The appetizer is like a cheese fondue that you dip like breads in or little vegetables and things like that. And if you like cheese a lot, it's good, but it's also pretty heavy. Cheese is a lot for me, all that dairy, right? So the fondue, though, of the chocolate, that's the move, right? They bring you a pot of melted chocolate, and then they bring you
Yeah.
like some fruits, some brownies, some Rice Krispies,
Oh,
some
all
white
fun stuff.
cake, some chocolate cake, and you just dip it in there and you eat it. And that, my friend,
That was a good dessert.
that's worthy of the hype.
That's where it is.
It's not worth the price of
I'm
the
not gonna
dinner,
lie,
but
yeah.
it is good.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel that that particular restaurant would not be the move for me. Like, it's probably not someplace I'd particularly want to take my wife or girlfriend or whatever on a date. It doesn't appeal to me as much, and it's expensive.
It's a fun experience.
I mean, sure, but like, I don't want to boil my meats, you know? Like, also, this is like 5 minutes from Fogo de Chao and Boca de Beppo, so there's just no competition there. There's no choice. Simple. I guess we're just talking about food again this episode, which is always fun.
We like to talk about food. Tell us about your Valentine's Day.
We went to the Hereford house,
So you had steaks.
so we had steak.
right. Well, fair enough.
I had steak and lobster.
John's a steak guy.
I am a steak guy. Okay, yeah, it's good for you. All right, and it feels bougie. All right, we like to feel bougie. Let's take a quick detour from the food. We may come back.
Okay.
There might be another food item on the agenda later. But I had this question the other day. We decided we'll talk about it on the podcast. I saw a video of Chris Brown. Now, there are several Chris Browns in the world. This one, also known as Breezy, Chris Breezy or whatever, famous for being one of the bigger R&B stars of
Of our lifetime.
our lifetime.
Yep.
Also famous for beating up one of the bigger pop stars.
For also being a terrible person, quite possibly.
Yeah, beating up one of the bigger pop stars of our lifetime. But Chris Brown is an excellent singer. Very good R&B singer. And also famously good dancer. Like, he's an excellent dancer. And I saw this video of him performing difficult choreography. Like, the moves he were doing, like, this requires a lot of strength and a lot of cardio, a lot of balance, a lot of timing, and doing this while singing not easy to sing songs. And I thought to myself, is Chris Brown the best performer in the world when it specifically comes to this singing and dancing thing? Like,
What he
who
texted me was, and maybe I should pull it up for reference,
Yeah, I didn't know how to word this.
but it was like, is Chris Brown the greatest performer
It was
of all
like the
time?
best singing performer.
The
or
best
whatever.
singing
Yeah.
performer of all time. Of all time, right? And that's the question I want to answer.
Yeah.
Is he the best singing performer of all time?
Not
History.
specifically
There's
the
a
best
lot.
singer. Not
Right.
specifically the best
I-
singer. Not specifically the best performer.
Right.
But when it comes to performing on stage while
Right.
singing, who do you bring?
I think there's a lot of people that should be considered here.
Yep.
And a lot of factors that should be considered. Now, if we were talking about greatest vocal performance,
Yeah.
we're looking at like Whitney Houston, maybe.
Right, yeah.
Right? If
I
we're
thought-
talking
yeah.
about crowd control, right?
Okay, like
Being
impressing the crowd.
enamored with the crowd, controlling the crowd. Maybe Queen, right?
Sure.
Freddie Mercury
Yeah.
at Live Aid, right? The AOs where he just has this whole crowd just doing what he says
Yeah, it's pretty
at
cool.
his beck and call, right? Enamored, like the audience loving being enamored with the
Beatles
singer.
or Justin Bieber.
I was gonna say Justin Bieber or Elvis.
Elvis had people going crazy.
Elvis had vocal power, stage presence, and a lot of crowd control.
And I think
right?
I pointed out when you mentioned Elvis, we say he had stage presence. It is nothing like the stage presence we see today. He just danced in a time where you didn't dance.
Right. So does that mean that maybe we should take into account, like as a factor, the time period, right? If we're saying someone is the best of all time, we have to take into account the standard for the time they were in as well, right?
No, I disagree. See, and this is a conversation I have a lot, especially like regarding movies and such right now. I feel like for specifically the best of all time, we're putting everybody up against each other, like you do your thing against everybody ever doing their thing, and whoever performs the best wins. Because like if
you're
think about
grading on different
it's not a
things,
sliding
right?
scale. Because like if you took even like someone who was a critic of the theater in the 50s and then showed him something from 2015, then he's going to be shocked, awed, and impressed. He's not going to be like, this is garbage. He's going to be like, this is so much better. I'm so happy that we could evolve as an art form.
I like to hope that you can grade on acting and storyline even across genres and across time, right? So, for example, if you watch The Godfather, and then I watched a movie yesterday called The Gorge.
Sure.
A brand new movie that just came out, direct to streaming release, Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. Not a great movie, but the cinematography was like pristine, right?
Sure.
Like this is a picture of where we are now as a society, as, you know, film in terms of cinematography. The colors were just wild throughout the whole thing. The story was awful,
Yeah.
right? The Godfather, the storyline, pristine. The
Sure.
acting, pristine. The colors sucked.
Yeah.
The fight choreography, I mean, I'm not going to say it sucked, but it's not there.
It's just not, yeah.
Right? And the graphics, the prosthetics, like,
Sure,
well,
yeah.
and the prosthetics in The Godfather are pretty good. But as a representative of the time period, right? Prosthetics were generally not good. You know, graphics and fights, all that stuff, not there.
Sure.
This movie I watched yesterday, the storyline, not there at all.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, Godfather's way higher than The Gorge in all ways, even though the cinematography is wildly different.
I mean, I agree that there are certain things that like, and like if you did put Elvis up against a performer from today, like even if the performer from today had like good choreography, I still think there's a case to be made that Elvis would be better just because there's certain aspects of Elvis that are iconic and
I'm calling that crowd control though too.
Yeah, there's crowd control, but also there's a lot of elements of like just the charisma of the performer and the quality of the music, like the vocal performance itself, the music, the band, like all of that has an effect on it. So I would say probably like Elvis, his performance, while his dancing, I think, is probably objectively not as impressive as Chris Brown's. Like he's still up there as one of the greater performers of all time. But I don't know. It's a hard question to answer because, again, I'm not too terribly familiar with like how people perform, but I was just very much impressed by this Chris Brown clip. It's basically what I'm saying.
I think I have some more names I'd like to mention and some more criteria maybe that could be worth discussing. Another name worth mentioning probably is Prince.
Yeah.
And also, I think maybe we're still thinking too modern, even moving back in time and stuff. Thinking
Really?
like Prince, Freddie Mercury, Elvis. It's quite possible that there are things that we are just not aware of.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe we missed the greatest of all time. Right? But again, perpetuity, it is what it is, right? I recently watched a documentary about Woodstock '99, which was a very like disastrous music festival, and there was the lead singer of Korn, which is a band that I know very little about and know enough as it is to say that I do not endorse them. Don't listen to their music. Like, I'm sure they're not great people at all. But anyway, the lead singer of Korn was interviewed in this documentary, and he talked about when he performed at Woodstock '99, and there's hundreds of thousands of people. Like, some of the footage from this event, the crowd is just huge, like mind-bogglingly huge. And they have a famous song that has like a heavy drop. I don't know what it's called. But he comes out and he's like, let's go, or something like that. And then he just starts like headbanging like crazy. And you can see the waves of the crowd because they had such a big crowd that the people in the back couldn't hear the stage at all, right? So they had PAs set up every couple hundred feet to project the sound out there. And so you could see in the video, the crowd is jumping and it's like a wave as the sound goes further and further out.
Oh, that's interesting.
Of people jumping as the sound reaches them. And he performed, it was like an hour set or something. He came off set, immediately collapsed. He was on an IV drip for 3 days.
Wow.
Because of how like insanely hard he went, and it was 100+ degree weather as well. And I know that particular case is kind of frowned upon in pop culture as something that went really, really wrong. But I want to think about rock music as well and some of the like insane levels of energy that people have put into that. And that brings me to another clip that I recently watched of the Freak Show tour from the late 90s.
I do want to say, though, specifically about rock music. The other day, well, this was a while ago, actually, but I saw a music video from Five Finger Death Punch.
Oh, sounds awful.
This, I think, was one of their more popular songs or whatever, but it had some
band that we know very little about.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about Five Finger Death Punch. But they're a rock band, I know this, and like a heavier metal type rock band. And there was some footage of some of their concerts. And I think one of the interesting things about like rock music versus like pop music or hip hop music is when it comes to the more mainstream music, like the whole aesthetic of it is so mainstream that it's not interesting as much. And like when you go like the rock show, like there's like all this visual appeal and this like the things they wear, the costumes, the visuals, like the props. There's this whole vibe that's like a rock vibe that is completely different and like interesting compared to like if you go to a mainstream show from someone like Drake, because he dresses like everybody dresses, you know? Or someone like Taylor Swift,
dressing,
even with
I have a story there too.
Even with Taylor Swift's interesting outfits, they're not like so shocking or stunning as like the way a rock band shows up with like they have like their masks and like their,
which has been taken to an unnecessary extreme by some bands, particularly in like metal and death metal and stuff.
But I just find it interesting, and especially because also like with rock music, the aesthetic kind of reaches into the crowd too, and like they all also dress just a little bit more edgy, and they also like the rock performers, they go nuts compared to like a pop performer. Like we all know that Taylor Swift has a great show and does her choreography and puts a lot into it, but just like the sheer energy and passion coming off the stage at a rock show, like it's next level. And like that energy also 100% spreads into the like the arena or the venue, whatever it is. Like
and I think
the audience is also going nuts.
I want to wrap this thought up before I go back to what this was a bunny trail from, which was the Freak Show. So don't let me forget about that.
Yep.
But that brings us to a question that we're going to have to answer here in a minute about does the sheer visceral energy on stage and in the crowd actually quantify to anything greater than Chris Breezy having this highly choreographed, or K-pop artists, or even Taylor Swift is pretty coordinated and choreographed in what she does. And also, Taylor Swift has a huge, like, audience participation factor.
Sure.
And her fans love her.
Yeah.
So that's something we'll come back to in just a second. But the Freak Show, DC Talk, in the late 90s, it's like 99 or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But there's a video of them performing Jesus Freak in front of a just mind-bogglingly huge crowd for what it was at the time, right? And in a similar way to how you couldn't see the end of the people in the Woodstock documentary, it was almost the same way in this video.
A lot of people.
And it, like, for me, was like, what the heck was Christian culture doing in the 90s? Like, that's something special. You don't see that so much anymore.
You don't see it anywhere.
Like, who is doing that? In secular music either.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess Taylor Swift is doing that size in secular music, but like, that's one person, right? And this was DC Talk, which was a subset of the culture. Like, Christian music was a small but growing subculture in the 90s.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a side note, that's something that really excites me. I wish we could get back to that in some way. Like, I didn't experience it, so I have just like secondhand FOMO of like, that looks sick.
I want that new, exciting, where is this coming from, where is this going to go kind of
Something
vibe with.
super
like,
fresh.
Christian music is so, like, what even is it? Like, how does it work, you know? That's something that definitely was lost, dropped, and potentially bungled. But
I feel like even thinking about the invention of like grunge and then punk rock and how music was reinventing itself in the 90s and 2000s, and right now our version of edgy in 2025 is either recreating 90s and 2000s trends or abandoning, you know, hip hop and rock for folk music, which is, it just doesn't feel like we're actually reinventing anything.
yeah, it's a struggle and kind of a sad place to be in.
And it was cool to me how in 99 Christians were on the forefront. And I hope that coming in the second half of the 20s here, we can do that.
I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah, I would like Christian music to be at the forefront of reinventing music and art and culture again.
I don't know how to do that either, but it's an interesting question. Like, where does music go to evolve from here?
Well, and it's weird because it's clearly not live music anymore. Like, I am someone who loves live music, and I go to concerts pretty much as often as I can.
Yeah.
But I don't think live music is where it's at. And I look at someone like Forrest Frank, who I don't think is doing anything particularly creative or unique in terms of sound.
Oh, no.
But the, like, size of his following and, like, the reach that he has on social media, it is something to admire.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's generic pop music with some rap influences. I mean, it's cool, but it's not reinventing anything.
No, it's not. And it's not
It's reinventing the wheel, maybe, but
it's not exactly, like, particularly groundbreaking or even, like, exciting. But I don't know. I wish there was a way to, I don't know. I don't want society to fall further into the social media and on-screen culture. Like,
that would suck.
I want more of the live music. You know, I want giant festivals again.
Maybe it's true that phones ruined it.
It's possible. Like, I want more giant festivals. I don't want more TikToks, you know?
Right. Or I don't want a VR live music experience.
No.
I don't want Fortnite church. Like, that's not what resonates with me.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that even, and I know that this is an audacious thing to say and unfounded probably, and some people won't like it, but even for the people that it does resonate with, I think maybe it resonates on like a lower level.
Yeah.
Like, there is something about authentic human interaction.
Yeah.
And we are talking about live music, but also the church experience, even like relationships, like falling in love in person versus falling in love online. There's like a visceral reality to being in person.
So, here's the interesting question. I want to know, will the future generations growing up with technology be able to have boundaries and a healthier relationship with it? Is there a future where we have phones, but we don't live on our phones? Is there a future where, we've kind of come to terms with other technologies that were groundbreaking at the time, right? There's been other things, right? Nothing is new under the sun. But I want to know if there is a world where instead of devolving into this Ready Player One kind of dystopia, we can
get it
together and learn to live with our phones just kind of by our sides in our pocket to connect us and not isolate us,
And I know that as, Gen Z, we're looking at the 90s through rose-colored glasses. We're seeing the best moments. I don't know what, some of the struggles are that we're not aware of. And we're just like, hey, I wish I could go back to a time when we had face-to-face authentic interactions often. And I'm sure there were tons and tons of things that we didn't see in the 90s that, made it suck in similar ways to we think now sucks. But we're basically at time. I want to take a couple minutes, though, to wrap up the original thought, which was greatest performer. And here's my kind of gotcha for Chris Breezy. Michael Jackson is a gotcha.
No, but okay.
I think Michael Jackson, the singing and the choreography,
I think Michael
and also
Jackson is iconic, but I bet you Chris Brown could sing circles around Michael Jackson.
It's possible.
Michael Jackson's like, and yeah, you won't kick.
Right. But
and Chris
also,
Breezy, voice of an angel, vocal runs, singing impressive stuff.
I also
there's
think,
just no competition.
Me personally, I'm docking points for the blatant and open and not at all hidden, and he knows that and it's fine use of auto-tune in Chris Brown's general stuff.
But it sounds good.
It does sound good, and I don't have a problem with it. I just think that in terms of his personal ability...
I've got a piping hot take.
Oh, gosh. All right.
I think that Chris Brown singing with auto-tune sounds much, much better than Michael Jackson without.
All right. That's
just Michael Jackson's
really
singing
take.
style, his breathy, poppy kind of I don't like it.
That's a personal thing, too, though.
Personal take.
And also, Michael Jackson was more unique.
Don't clip that.
Chris
They'll
Brown.
come for me. The millennials and
Michael
older
Jackson is
Gen
more
X will come for me.
unique than Chris Brown,
Sure.
too. So that's worth considering. But also, if you want to say Chris Brown is up here, Torrin Wells
Sure.
is an artist who's not even that widely known, who basically does the same thing.
He does, yeah. But he's a pastor now. But he still tours.
He's basically up there.
We're out of time.
We are out of time.
And I got other things immediately following this, so
we don't have an answer anyway.
We don't have an answer.
Hopefully you can continue this conversation.
Yeah, everybody have this conversation. Yeah.
And figure out the
real,
truth.
Genuine interactions with your friends where you discuss these things.
Exactly.
And also, everybody, get off your phone and go to a music festival. If anybody's listening.
Or go to a small venue and, experience music.
Which we did on Saturday night.
Best option yet. Go to church.
Go to
Find
church.
some Jesus.
Get Jesus. All right. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.